podcast, back with another episode with old guest and new guest again. Sean Duffy and Josh Wheeler here today for a little search talk. How you doing, guys?
Doing good. Thank you for having
Doing
us
good,
on.
man.
Awesome. Y'all care to give a little introduction and bio on yourselves for everybody tuning in?
Yeah, let Josh go first.
Sean, go ahead.
All right. So these are always awkward for me, so I'll just try and keep it brief. I'm entering my 22nd year in the fire service. It was absolutely crazy to think about. Um, I started right out of high school at 18 and just never stopped. So here we are, still doing it, trying to share my passion with everybody, especially in the realm of search, and why it's so important for us to stay focused on that. Had the pleasure to teach at FDIC a couple times, write a few articles, things like that. So I'm going to keep loving the fire service as long as it loves me back and just keep trucking on. So
Nice.
Awesome.
Josh Wheeler. I've been in the fire service now for 11-ish years. Started off as a volunteer, moved to a Kentucky department for 6 years. Now I've had the pleasure to work with Rutherford County Fire Rescue at Rutherford County Special Operations for the last 3 years. I absolutely love the job. I love the craft. I love teaching search, teaching truck company operations. I'm just here to pass on what my mentors have passed on to me. So I'm just here to make it better.
Awesome. And obviously, that's something that both of you guys are really passionate in teaching. Wheeler with prioritize the search and along with the training cadre at Rutherford County. I was blessed enough to kind of get a little piece of that during the lateral class back this towards the end of summer. And then Sean, of course, with searchable versus survivable all over the place. Uh, Good opportunity. I think it's still up on a blue collar fireman too, isn't it? For a little shorter online version, people that can't get out and travel to conferences. So the material's definitely out there. If there's no reason in today's age for somebody to sit back and be uneducated on it. But as I said, something that y'all are very passionate about. So kind of what got y'all into that realm of search where that was your piece of the pie that you really wanted to dive into and spread?
for me, it was more failure than anything else. I share this with everybody just because I think it's an important piece of the puzzle. When I was young in the fire service, my first couple of years, I thought I was better than what I was, and it just took one fire to change that for me. Kind of humbled me real quick. It just happened to be that search was that task that I found out I wasn't really ready for, and I made it my mission since then to never be in that position again. Um, of course, we're always learning, we're always failing, and but the idea was that after that specific fire, I said no, I don't want to. If I'm going to be in this position, I'm going to be the best I can at it. And then fast forward several years later, it was kind of a couple other things that started happening, and much like everything else in the fire service, frustration drives a lot of things. And I was just frustrated. I was frustrated with going to fires and having reports of victims, um, people being pulled out, wondering, and not just like on my shift, but just in the department as general. Hearing people talk like, "Hey, could we have gotten to that person quicker? And if so, would that have made a difference?" And it just really just piqued my curiosity to see what was out there. Like being a passionate person, you can obviously always overstep. And I'm huge on like if we're gonna have a conversation, come to the table with facts. So I wanted to make sure that I wasn't just like beating my chest and being like, oh, I'm just this is how it needs to be, but I couldn't present any actual evidence of that. So learning about firefighter rescue survey and what that does for us, talking to other people around the country, taking classes, doing all those things, um, it just put me in a position to say, hey, I'm going to teach people about my experiences, where I failed, what I've learned from it, what I've done to improve, and then what else is out there. Because the fire service is just, there's so much information, and I don't think we do a good enough job like getting that out. So what we tend to do is just the same thing over and over and over, thinking we're winning when we're missing a large portion of what we need to know. So that was it for me. Is making sure that my mindset matched my actions, and then sharing that to people, and giving them the mindset that when they go to fires, they can be like, hey, we can actually do more, and this is what that looks like.
Love it.
So to piggyback off what Sean was saying, pretty much that 100%. For me, it was figuring out that you don't know what you don't know, and I've been humbled. I've been blessed to be humbled so many times throughout my career by going to these classes by guys so much better than me, um, and picking up stuff. Uh, uh, I'll always plug Arthur Ashley's truck company class. That was the very first outside exposure to class that I had, and I showed up and it was like, holy shit! I had no idea of everything that I didn't know. Well, fast forward a little bit through my career, I was able to go to prioritize the search, and Sean, you were there teaching. I thought I had a good knowledge and foundation on search, but then figuring out about the firefighter rescue search culture, Sean, your classes, dumping two in instead of keeping one isolated at the window. All of this stuff was completely new to me. So getting out, getting in these outside classes and getting involved in trying to make our departments better, that's what really did it for me.
Awesome. And I love that the quotes of you don't know what you don't know and the stories of being humbled because I was kind of in the same shoes. I worked for a department was that didn't go to a lot of fires, kind of went through the state's program, and after that you were focused on becoming a driver, and got promoted to engineer and made my way down to Georgia to a Bears of the Oath class. And I talk about this specific class all the time because I went down there with one of my coworkers. They had skill station rotations, everything from engine, truck work. And I thought it was like, man, this is the simplest shit out there. It's all basic firefighter skills. Why should I have to worry about this? They promoted me to engineer. I ought to be good enough at it. That class kicked my ass so bad that after day one, I drove home about an hour and a half. It was in Dalton, Georgia, same place I was in class yesterday. And I drove home an hour and a half without the radio on, thinking, man, what the fuck are you going to do? Like, because we're like, it was that breaking moment of thinking, you're holding up a spot for somebody else so that you can come out here and perform like that. And that was really the fire under my ass that made me want to get into high gear and change something for myself because it's an experience whenever something humbles you like that, whether it be a class, a fire. You know, like people say, fire's the great equalizer. You show up and one thing goes wrong, and it's something that you're going to beat yourself over, and we should, rightfully so. I mean, I don't think everything's always going to go right for us, but if we don't critique ourselves and we don't pick those moments out to make ourselves better, then we're going to be in those same shoes that I was in, just kind of riding around with that engineer syndrome or whatever you want to call it, just holding up a spot.
But it's a beautiful thing though. It really is. Like getting humbled, that's what I strive for. Every single outside class that I go to, like I want to make mistakes. I want to go there. I want to make mistakes. I want to get better. If I go there and I completely rock it out, cool. But I want to be humbled every single time I go outside. I think that is whenever you realize, like I said, you don't know what you don't know, that's when you can really start getting better.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely. I mean, the thing too is like you always hear people there's always those negative people like, oh, what is it that you really know, like how many fires do you really go to, and insert excuse here of like, who are you to tell me anything. And I'll be honest with you, like I grew up in a culture in the fire service that like if people didn't work for FDNY or some big name fire department, like you just didn't listen to them, and that hurt me. That did not do me any
Hmm.
good because the reality is like the opportunity for me to get a hold of those people was so rare, right? Um, and as I started going to classes and I started learning, like what I found out is like, oh, this person had this experience, right? Whether that was positive or negative, and they learned from this person who happens to be in one of these larger departments. And what you find out is that most of the time, people who instruct aside from their own experiences, they are picking the brains of people that are doing this far more frequently than they are. And they're able to pass on that information. And it's not like a, hey, you've never done this, don't talk about it. It's, I was able to vet this particular piece of information based off an actual rescue that somebody made that I talked to for over an hour and dissected this whole thing. So we have that obligation to pass those things on because, like I'm only one person, Josh, you're one person, Tyler, you're one person. Like the more of us that are reaching out there and picking the brains of these individuals or just talking about fires we've been to, what we learned, what went right, what didn't go right, like, and we share that, that's how we're collectively reaching more and more people. And the end result of that is we're going to save more lives, right? So um, that's kind of the beautiful thing for me in this is even though that I teach it, right? I'm always going to strive for search on the fire ground. Like that's just my thing. That's what I want to do. If there's any assignment, please give that one to me. But while I'm out there teaching this, I'm also learning so much from other instructors, students. Like it's just a really cool environment, like almost like a think tank, right?
Yep.
Everyone's pushing this forward, which is the way it should be, and I've seen search just take off over the years where it's like it was kind of a sexy thing to talk about, then it kind of died off, and like here we are back where like everyone's got a search class, everyone wants to talk about it, and some people find that like negative. I think it's fantastic. The more people we can have out there beating that same drum, like that's how we create change in the fire service. So I think we just need to keep marching forward with it and sharing what we learn along the way.
I think we're really starting to get on the same page. Finally, I think the fire service is really starting to get on the same page from the search aspect of things. I think like with the huge like search culture push with firefighter rescue survey, like at some point in time, because I know whenever I came up in the fire service, it was not taught like this at all. It was still boots and little snake around the room, which it still might be taught like that from a state standpoint. But at some point, somebody had to ask why. I wasn't the one. I was always like, yes, sir, like that's what we're gonna do. But someone had to ask why, and it's made the fire service tremendously better for it. Because if you go to these search classes now, of course, everyone brings a little bit something different to the table. Um, and that's the reason why it's so awesome to go to all these multiple classes. But for the vast majority, like everyone is teaching prioritized bedrooms now. For the vast majority, I'm seeing a lot of people saying, don't keep someone isolated to a window, dump people inside. Like we're starting to get on the same page. And that's the first time that I've really ever seen the fire service do that. We usually just bitch at each other about everything.
Well, that was kind of going to lead into one of the questions I told y'all I had written down too. With obviously y'all being out in the training circuit and seeing this type of stuff go on and pretty prevalent following along with the fire service social media wise. How do y'all feel we're doing? Like, are we winning against the pushback out there? I mean, there's obviously still small pockets, Wheeler, as you said, with state curriculums, IFSTA, Jones and Bartlett, that type of BS. But are the training cadres and the instructors that are out here pushing this stuff that, as you said, are getting on the same page thanks to the data from Firefighter Rescue Survey, the hard facts? Are we winning against the safety culture that's kind of put us in this position in the first place?
I don't have a direct answer for you. I wish I could tell you 100% yes. I think there's still a little bit of a battle. I think we're definitely making some headway. I see more fire chiefs attending these programs and bringing things back to their classes or back to their departments. I see more fire departments adopting the firefighter rescue survey. I see them, creating search policies. Um, whether you agree with that's how we, move a department forward or not, like a policy drives everything. So um, I think there's definitely a lot more positives now than there was, 22 years ago when I started. I think that we continue to push, right, which is awesome. But I think where we're gonna fail is, nobody hates firemen more than firemen. You know, so it's that. Well, this person's got a search class, and so do I. Like, what makes them better than me? And like, you see this a little bit of competition, and you know, I'm not saying everyone's like that, but it does exist, and I think that is going to hold us up more than anything currently at the moment. Is like, it shouldn't matter who's got the torch and pushing the message forward. The message is the message, and like, we need as many people out there spreading the cure, right? Like that's the name of the game. So like, if we could just stop fighting ourselves as cadres, or you know, like, I mean, you know, Justin, he's got the search culture page, and he does a phenomenal job at that, and I love it. It's probably one of the best resources we have. But even on that page, you can see just how many people are so dead set sometimes about fighting with each other instead of understanding where we're coming from and what we're trying to do. That kind of behavior is something that is always probably going to be existing. But I think we can do a better job curbing that, and if we can, we can kind of push the ball a little bit further.
Yeah. I try and be a positive person, and I never want to say that like we're not winning, because if we're not, then what are we even doing? So you got to remain a little bit positive. But I really think we are, just from seeing the fire service years ago whenever I came in. Yeah, the state curriculum is still there. I really don't foresee that going anywhere. I really don't foresee that going anywhere, because at the end of the day, I dislike it. I dislike it, but that is a very, very, very nominal, basic groundwork for firemen to go off of. Very, very, very nominal. I don't think it was ever created to be the end all be all of fire service training. That is just to get your foot in the door. So, in that regard, it just is what it is. But I think more people are attending outside trainings. Sean, like you said, I think shot callers like chiefs, captains, people who are going to be in those positions to make those decisions and make those policies, I think more of those people are attending these outside trainings. I don't know. I don't know if we're winning, but I do know that the fire service is in a much better place than what it was whenever I started. That might be the best way to answer that. Don't know if we're winning, but it's significantly better.
And
Yeah,
I feel like it's helped out a lot too. I mean, as shitty as it is, obviously we know there's still fire departments that are making these mistakes when it comes to protecting their citizens
Sure.
every day. But now we see that when this, unfortunately, somebody has to lose their life for it to happen. But when it does happen, it's not cool to be that guy anymore. It's not cool to be that department that allows that type of stuff to go on. And it could happen in a city somewhere right now across the country that we've never even heard of. And I guarantee you, we're going to get on social media tomorrow, and there's going to be 100 different social media pages absolutely ripping their ass over it, demanding answers.
Accountability is coming. Accountability is
100%.
coming.
mm-hmm.
And
Um,
we've seen that with, I've talked about it multiple times. We've seen that with our brothers and sisters in law enforcement, to the point to where they've almost been overly held accountable and scrutinized in their jobs because of mistakes that people were making.
mhm.
And we've been held ever post 9/11. Firefighters have been reigned as the heroes of America. You know, we can go and utterly burn someone's shit to the ground, make every mistake that we can, and they'll show up with cookies at the firehouse next shift and still feed us when we're the ones that didn't do our jobs. But let us kill somebody in today's age. Wakeman, Ohio, Polk County, Florida. I mean, the list goes on and on. And you are going to be eaten alive in your department. And you know, we had this conversation at work probably about 2 months ago around the table about Polk County, Florida. And that's a department that's still fighting that today, still trying to win the trust back from their people over what happened with the famous fire that we all familiar with what happened there.
And to my
So
understanding, a very aggressive department. I don't know anything about Polk County. but I have heard that they are typically an incredibly aggressive department. One time this happens, and they've been completely written off in a lot of people's minds, which is sad at the end of the day. It is sad because I'm sure there's a lot of hitters at Polk County, Florida that's having to endure what one person made the call to do. Um, yeah,
Yeah, I
but
mean,
it's accountability is definitely coming down the pike for everybody.
I actually know some people that work in Polk County, and I didn't work too far from Polk County when I was in Florida. Um, I'll tell you, they are a very good department, very aggressive. You know, they fight fires. It's
Yep.
not like they don't know what they're doing. That's an example of one individual that, you know, maybe should not have been promoted, or for whatever reason something happened. You know, I'm not gonna cast too many stones there, but thing is, I could tell you um, that right after that happened, there was correction, right?
Mm,
So, you know, and that's the biggest thing is like we can't control everybody. You know, people are going to do what they want to do on these fires and make the decisions that they're going to make, but like we can control the future, like what we choose to do from that lesson we learned. And I think that's where we're at in the fire service is when these things happen, we as a fire service are saying that does not represent us as a whole. This looks really bad. This person didn't do what they were supposed to do. I get that. But as a whole, we still feel strongly that we don't we don't condone that kind of behavior, right? And I think that's where we're at today. Is there's so many people that when they see that they take it personal, right? It's no
hmm
different than a firefighter going out and you know like doing something stupid that makes the news. Then you get all the phone calls from your friends. Hey, do you see what that firefighter did? And blah blah. And you're like, dude, that doesn't even have anything to do with me. you know, same thing.
100%.
Like, oh, my nephew's a firefighter. Do you know him? No, I work in Michigan. Where are you from? Oh, I'm from. You know, it's like, yeah, no, wait, I don't know
Yeah.
them. Point being is, those who care and they want better for us are going to hold that standard and set that standard, and that's what I've seen over the past, you know, at least decade of hitting search
Yep.
hard is that we are at that point where like if our departments aren't doing it, there's plenty of firefighters around the country that know better. And I would say this: um, you're not excused from civil reaction or civil actions. You know, like if your department doesn't, you know, they back you and whatever, like you could still get sued civilly. There's nothing stopping a family from suing you personally because you didn't do what you were supposed to do, and there's plenty of examples of that too. So I think we're starting to see more and more of those surface, and we're starting to catch on. Like, oh shit, I just can't hide from this anymore. You know, like it's going to be a deal, and we're going to have to explain this. And I think most people are at that point where we're like, I don't want to have to explain it. I just want to do my job.
Absolutely. And some of
Yep.
that accountability too, and we'll go back to Wheeler a few minutes ago. You mentioned the why and people asking for the why behind things. And this is another conversation that pops up quite frequently. But you know, being as I said, out in the training circuit, things like that, you see a change today more than you ever have because everybody wants to know that you can't come in and bullshit somebody through something, and the reason being of because I said, or because this is me and this is who I work for, you should trust me because I work for the FDNY or whatever department. Sean, as you said earlier, mentioning that people didn't listen if you didn't come from somewhere like that before. But today, you walk into a room full of students for a lecture or out to a drill site for a hot class, and pretty much everybody out there is going to want to know that why behind what's going on. But then going back to the department, and we talked about the state curriculums, and I do, while I 100% agree that that's the minimum groundwork, I mean, we're never going to see state curriculum, state academies that are out here pushing the same type of stuff that we're going to see in the hot classes that we're all familiar with. But we have departments doing their in-house academies that follow strictly off of that. And for a lot of these kids, that's their first exposure to the fire service. walking in day one of the academy, that's the first time that they've ever had any kind of exposure to it. And they're looking at their instructors like they are the most knowledgeable, just looking up to them. That's the only resource that they have at that point. And if that's what we're feeding into them, and that's the why that they're given in the academy, and then day one they make it to the streets, and you're trying to show them the way we all know it doesn't matter. Academies is different than the way that things are done on the rig. Now those whys to me they're button heads.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's important to. Gosh, I'm probably gonna get so much shit for this, but it is what it is. I think it's important too to realize, like, as a trainer, regardless of where you're training, whether that be an academy instructor, a department instructor, you have your own, training company, whatever it is, you have to own that. When you say something, you have to own it. Meaning, like, when we go around, we'll take the firefighter rescue survey for example. We're all pushing the numbers, right? Well, next year those numbers can look very different, right? So what we tell people this year based off of what we know, a year from now can be very different, and we've got to be able to own that and say, hey, I know I told you this then. However, we now know more things, and this is what we have found out, and this is now the best way. Whether that aligns with your belief or not, right? There might very well be a time where, like, we look at the survey and we're like, oh shit, something we're pushing really heavy. Now that we have more numbers and we're looking at this from a broader scope, it's not what we thought it is, and we owe that to people to push that corrected information out. And I think that's where we're failing in academies, and maybe even in departmental trainings, is the people have a base knowledge for, maybe they expanded it, maybe they didn't, but we're not revisiting things. So it just continues to get taught, and next thing you know, you're like, why is this outdated tactic the way we're doing things, right? And that's what we have to think about when we're sharing information, regardless of where you come from. Now, with the fire academies, it's interesting enough. We have a girl in our fire department just got hired. She just graduated the academy, and I asked her, I said, how'd they teach you to search? Because we're doing search training, right? And she's like, well, they taught us the state way, and then they taught us the street way. So their hands are also kind of tied too, right? But I do give them credit that some of the instructors in the academy are saying, hey, I have to show you this thing that's not real practical. I'm going to show it to you, know it for when you have to test out, but now we're going to do some real shit. I'm going to show you how to really do this. And I think that's a win. You're asking if we're winning. I think that is a solid win, that, like, at that entry level, they are knowing that the book and the street are very different, and they come out of there with a basic knowledge of both. Where we fail is when they go to their fire departments. If people in that fire department are not squared away and know this information, right, there's no way to advance that, right? So we've got to kind of, like, hone in on that and realize, like, we got a lot of responsibilities as trainers, and we need to make sure we're not failing people.
How do you feel like you bridge that gap between the people at their department and these recruits coming out of academies, getting there with maybe a little bit more of a baseline understanding of search or whatever tactic it may be? How do you bridge that gap between the existing firefighters, people riding the rigs, and a new recruit coming in that might have been taught something that they've never been shown or have limited exposure to themselves?
Again, I mean, I can't say. I'd love to give you, like, a definite answer. I don't know if there is one. All I can say is that I hope the people in that fire department are advancing their education and taking these outside classes and learning about what best practices in the fire service. Because if they're not, guess what? You're not going to advance it, right? If all you know is what you know, and you don't ever care to continue to push that forward, if your department's not bringing in outside instructors to have that influence, if you're not going to fire conferences or nobody else is in your fire department, you're not going to get it. That's I think the beneficial thing of outside training. Whether you bring people into your organization or you send people from your organization to the outside somewhere else, we have to continue to go see what's out there and bring that back to our organizations and then start implementing, like, how does this work for us, right? I took this class, that's great, all this information is awesome, but is it practical for how we operate and our staffing levels? If not, how do we take what we've learned and mold it so that it is, like, that's the objective. If you're not doing any of that, I don't think it's going to help anything. Right? You're not going to grow as an organization.
So I really don't know. I don't know if this has happened accidentally. I'm sure it's happened purposefully, but the only thing that I can really base my knowledge off of is Rutherford County. And Tyler, you might be able to answer this question better than anybody, honestly. Um, I know we have to teach state standards. We have to, because people have to get that firefighter one, firefighter two, all of that stuff. That stuff isn't going to change. But I also feel like we do pretty good at trying to bridge the gap between, like, whenever these guys get pushed out onto the circuit and onto the trucks, we want them to be squared away in what we're actually going to be doing on the street. So I guess it's Sean, it's kind of like what you said, like we are still teaching that their tests that they have to take are state accredited tests, right? But what they're getting taught is street stuff. So I guess we've bridged the gap by saying, hey, guys, like, just read the book and take the test, please. And please, just like pleading with him, maybe. I don't know. Like, hey, you read this book and you get to do fun shit afterwards. Um, I really don't know how we've bridged that gap, and I can't really give a direct answer on that.
And I think there's a lot of departments that have done a great job at doing that. You know, take the outside classes, conferences, stuff away, just in-house academies. They've done a great job at making people understand, hey, this is what we have to do to make you pass this test. But when you make it to the truck, this is how you're going to be expected to perform. This is how we're going to do things. But I feel like there's still a lot out there that are scared to. You know,
Yep,
just about every curriculum that's out there on a state level works in an aspect of you can add to whatever you want, but you can't take away from.
yep,
But I feel like there's a big fear there, whether I don't know what it is, maybe it's a liability standpoint that people fear, or maybe a knowledge thing on their own. They're scared to, do more than read straight from a state's curriculum and do what the slides and the skill sets say. But there's still a lot out there that you go to an in-house academy or you see these very large cities posting pictures of their academies putting 50 to 100 recruits through, and the stuff that they're doing is cookie cutter stamped out of an Ifster or Jones and Bartlett book every single week when they post their updates.
Yep. I will
I
say
think it go. Oh, go ahead. Go
no,
ahead.
no, you're good. I can go after you.
I was going to say, I think it goes well beyond, like, the what we teach recruits, though. I think standards go well beyond that. If we're having to teach, like, brand new recruits this baseline stuff out of the book, I hope the standards that the rest of the department holds is able to, like, catch them on the backside of things, and as soon as they graduate, be like, all right, so you passed an academy. Now we're going to start training towards what we're actually going to be doing on the street. Whether it's the training cadre that initially teaches that in the academy, or the guys that are teaching that to all the new guys whenever they come out onto the trucks. Hopefully standards fix themselves somewhere, right?
Yeah, and I think too, like, some of that, like, again, we can be our own worst enemies, right? We're in a time in the fire service where lateral movement
Mm-hmm.
is huge, right? We are bringing people into our organizations that come from other organizations and they have their own set of experiences. But yet at the same time, we're like, shut the fuck up. You don't know shit. you're brand new here, and we're a little. I I I, I understand that mindset, but I also think we're missing the mark. Like, yes, you have to earn your spot within an organization. Totally get it. Um, but at the same time, if your organization doesn't have anybody in it that's willing to teach, or the teaching is not, up to the things that are being taught anywhere else, um, that's a resource we can use. We could tap into that. You know, and I tell you, in Ann Arbor, we've never really had a formal academy in a long time, and we're at a place now where we have people in our organization that love to teach. They're very good at what they do. Different levels, varying from battalion chief to captain to lieutenant down to firefighters. And we have a core group that shares things, and in that core group, when we bring people in and we're showing them how we want them to do things here in Ann Arbor, right? We're always asking them, how did you do it where you came from? Do you have anything to add? Right? Things like that, because they do have value, and if we just listen, we might learn something. Right?
Yep.
So I think that we could be better at doing that in the fire service, and maybe that'll help us kind of like get over some of those hurdles that we're hitting.
For sure.
Oh,
Are you frozen?
y'all still?
Oh,
Yeah.
You still good?
yeah.
I thought you were frozen.
I thought you were too.
Sometimes Riverside freaks out a little bit when you start putting multiple people in here, and plus live over on YouTube as well. So hopefully
Right.
it sticks with us. So obviously we've talked a lot about the different aspects of things we're doing great, maybe some of the spots that we're missing the mark. Do y'all feel like if things were, I don't want to say dumbed down, because that is not at all what we need to do. We need the cold hard facts, the numbers out there. But if, Wheeler, you said everybody you see is kind of coming more onto the same page now. If some of this stuff was simplified, broken down to where we didn't add all the fluff in there, there wasn't a million different ways to teach a single tactic. I'll go back to, you and I have had multiple conversations on searching through a window. You can add as many letters into an acronym as you want to. It's doing the same damn job. You're just going in through a different point, in my opinion. But just take that for example. If we took VES, or a window initiated search, and we broke it down to one simple way, we didn't have the Wheeler you talked about. Let's leave a guy at the window. This guy's got to bring a tick. Everybody's got to do this. We're going to go step by step by step, and we just simplified something down for the way that we're going to search. Would that help kind of mend some of this and bring everybody together on the same page and fix some of these academy streets, all the different stuff that we've talked about?
I think we're trying. I think we're on a pathway to try and do that. It's hard. You got to think how long IFSTA has been around. Like the roots is so deep seated that as much as we try, I don't know if we're going to see a true like shift in the entire fire service until long after I'm out of it. And that's not being negative, that's just being realistic. I think we have taught ifs to stuff for so long. Whenever, I mean, you see how hard it is to change the smallest minute thing in the fire service. You'll get picked apart for it. Now we're wanting to change the way we train recruits. Like, that's not going to be happening fast. So I think what we're doing now with getting all of this information out with outside classes, that's how we win. That is, I think we're doing exactly what it takes to eventually put a big dent in this. But we are getting on the same page. I think a lot of outside cadres are getting on the same page, and the simplicity is coming back to it. It's not VEIS LMNOP anymore. It's, hey, we're doing a search. We're going through that window. That's as easy as you can make it, right? And then breaking down, like, isolation versus not isolation, not leaving somebody isolated to the window, sending two in, have one person already at the door to determine whether they can extend or not. That sounds like a lot, but at the end of the day, that really does become common sense whenever you start leapfrogging through a house because at the end of the day, that's where we're rescuing our civilians is split search, and that's what it becomes whenever you search through a window.
Yeah, I think you're pretty spot on there. Um, keeping it simple, breaking it down, why we do things. I think when we talk about it and we really break it down to that core principle of like what our rules of engagement are, we typically find out there's a lot of correlation between everything else we do. So like Josh was talking about VES, I love that conversation because when I ask about it, I say, well, why are we keeping one person at a window? Oh, because you got to keep them there, and it's like, so you're assuming that it's just a one room entry and then we're done. Okay, so there's some variables like what if it is a master bedroom that we're going into or a larger room? Like, wouldn't you want that person in there to help you with that search? And then I ask a very simple question. Well, when we go through a front door, are you keeping someone at the front door? And
I like it.
everyone looks at me and they pause, and I'm like, I'm serious. Because if we treat an opening as such, just an opening, whether it's a window or a door or whatever else that may be, the core principles of what we're doing remain the same. We in the fire service hang so far on to like, well, that's just the way we've done it, and that's just what we do. And you start like breaking this down. Again, with the split search, oh, you can't split search. You can't leave your partner. Okay. When I go through the front door and you say, I'm going right, I'm going left, if I go into this bedroom here to the right and I search it, are you still staying in the hallway? Well, yeah, I got to remain oriented, so you've left your partner. Right? We start approaching things like that in a way that it makes sense to people and breaking it down. And then we say, now let me show you how we can do all the same things, but better. Right? We're going to be faster. Our communication is going to be more dialed in. Like, just all of this. And you're already with me. So by the time we need to leave, I don't have to come back to a window to get you. Or I don't have to come back, 3 rooms away and come get you. Like, there's a process behind it. And I think a lot of people they fail to understand the process because they get hung up in all the nuance of like everything and like what if, what if, what if, what if. And by nature, the fire service has made us very timid because of things like, oh, well, if you let go of your partner, they could fall through a hole and they can die. If you get off the wall, you might lose your orientation and get lost and die. Like, everything is like, you could die, you could die, you could die. And that is a mental scar. So we got to strip all of that down and like bring in the facts and then like look at it and say, okay, cool. Bill Carey, data, not drama. Let's break this down. How many firefighters are actually dying doing this thing? Right? And you say, oh, okay, on average, 100 firefighters are dying a year. That's what we're telling people, but they're not dying actually doing a search or cutting a hole in the roof or flowing water. They're dying because of other shit that we don't do, like be healthy, work out, eat right, cardiac problems, suicide, not wearing your seatbelt, like all this other shit. So we have to be open and honest with ourselves when we're talking about this and let the students know, like, what I'm about to show you. Could you die? Sure, there's always that variable. And anything we do. But I'm going to teach you how to do it, and in the end, you're going to realize how much safer you actually are because you're putting your civilians first.
Absolutely. And I feel like that safety has to come through competence and nothing else. Like that's the only way, we've we've all heard the saying we can flip over any piece of gear that we have and it's going to tell you on the warning label that firefighting is inherently dangerous. Like the only key to any safety that we have is just being good at our damn jobs.
Yeah. I mean, you got to know the why before you can do anything, right? and then you got to start it, and you've got to allow yourself to experience the process. If you don't ever like take the leash off, you're never gonna go anywhere, man. You know, it's like a child, right? You guys know this. You have children, so when they're very little, you're like, oh no 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 no, you're gonna hurt yourself. Come here, come here, come here. And then as they get older, you're just like, well, they gotta learn a lesson. As their parent, I don't want to see them get hurt, but I can't protect them forever. So you let them do the thing, and then you realize, oh, they're fine. They're gonna be okay. They're learning, right? It's important that they learn. We have the same thing as firefighters.
Yeah.
We have to learn our jobs, and in order to learn our jobs, we've got to let go of the leashes. People have got to let us do it, and we can't be afraid to fail. Okay, because we will fail. That's gonna happen. But it's how we approach that failure and what we learn from it. You know, when I was a kid, I skateboarded all the time. You know how much time I ate the pavement so much trying to learn a new trick. But I wanted that damn trick, right? Like I wanted to do it, so I just did it and did it and did it and did it, and eventually it just became second nature because I just honed in on trying to get it done. It's the same process for us too. Insert skill here, time after time after time, just do it. And you have to throw the element of the fire ground in, because we can be really good in a training building or the apparatus bay or wherever we're at. But when there's active fire in a building and there's shit in our way and things are different, that adds a whole nother variable that like we can try and attempt to train to that degree, but you're never going to replicate it, no matter how hard you try. And then we marry those two together. The training plus the real world application. Maybe it worked, maybe it didn't work. We fine tune some things and we keep moving forward. That's how you get dialed in.
So for departments that especially in the region that I live in, there's southeast is filled still with very small individual volunteer departments, and you see the majority of the time, and I'm not knocking, there's some great ones out there, but the majority of the time you see a very misunderstanding or ignorance in those departments. They see the only training that they're really getting is, say for Tennessee, is a basic 64-hour fire class. Well, first a 16-hour introduction, so a 16-hour intro, a 64-hour basic fire class, and then if they're lucky, they'll travel to TFACA and they'll do a 16-hour live burn, and that is it. They may be a volunteer for the next 25 years, and the majority of them, that's all they're getting. But you see a lot of these departments that they've got people that want to be better. They want to do good. Doesn't matter if they'd go to 1-2 fires a year. If their department goes to 20 calls a year, they want to be better at what they're doing, but they don't have the resources. They can't travel to FDIC. They're not hopping in the car and driving 3 hours down to Atlanta to go to MAFC. They don't have the doors open to them to go to these conferences. So for a department that doesn't have those resources available, or just a firefighter that's in a department that doesn't as an individual, how would y'all, as somebody that's in the training circuit and is familiar with all this different type of stuff, what would you do to recommend to them to be able to improve their department search training or their own individual skills?
You only need a little to do a lot.
Yep.
Believe it or not. Like, everybody gets hung up on, again, the nuance, like, oh, like, I need a training building. I need this, I need that. You don't. You can build props super cheap. You can just go down. People are giving pallets away for free, right? Go get a shit ton of pallets and make like a mock layout of a house, and like go get some stuff from Goodwill, some clothes, some whatever. Bring in furniture that people are throwing away, whatever the case is, right? Like, dude, it's as simple as pull all the trucks out from the apparatus bay. Build a mock layout of here, whether it be pallets or, you know, OSB sheets or whatever it is. You can train with very little and still be very effective. And I think just people don't realize that. You know, I'm not going to say that we should bring our bunker gear into the firehouse that's furnished and stuff like that. I'm never going to advocate for that, but like, you don't need to, right? You got everything you need to train with at your firehouse. And although it might not be at the level that people want it to be, it's better than nothing. You just got to know and you got to have an imagination, and you got to be able to build these things, right? And that comes with passion. Like if you really want to do it, you're going to get it done. So I think we just have to empower people to realize like what their options are and how they can do it.
If there's a will, there's a way. I mean, like you said, mentioning the pallets and stuff from Goodwill. Hell, you can go to pretty much any Goodwill or charity store, thrift shop, and just simply ask for the stuff that they're not going to sell. They throw dumpsters loads of shit away every single day that's good to nobody for anything except for you to come in and clutter something up like it is in the house right next door to the firehouse.
Yeah.
Just take that shit in a box and dump it in the center of the floor like it is in probably 50% of the homes you run med runs in.
Well, there's we live in an age like Facebook's a thing. Go ahead and get on some of these like local Facebook pages where people are getting rid of stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, couch by the curb, come get it. Just go get it. Or make a post on those pages. Hey, doing some fire training. Is anybody looking to get rid of a crib or a couch or anything they don't need, bags of clothes, etc.? Like that's what we do. And you'd be surprised how many people are like, yeah, man, I've been wanting to get rid of this thing. Come get it. And you just rent a U-Haul and you pick the shit up and you bring it to where it needs to go. Now, the thing that I hear the most is, well, what do I do with it once the training's over? You fucking keep it. That's what you do with it, so that you can use it again. Well, I don't have a place to store it. Man, you can get a Connex box for like $1,000,
Yep.
right? There's a way. Find a way, because once you have those resources, I'm gonna tell you, you don't want to get rid of them because they're invaluable, man. They didn't really cost you anything, and you can use them over and over and over, right? You're not setting them on fire, so it doesn't matter. Create that training culture that you want, and it's gonna take some time to acquire some things, but like, man, saying like I don't have the ability to train, to me that's wild. I don't understand how anyone can think that.
I've seen some departments that have even gotten their hands on some of these little prefab buildings. It seems like at least where I live, about every half a mile, somebody's selling outbuildings. And they've gotten pretty elaborate with the construction of them now. And I've seen some departments that have gotten their hands on those and they've replicated one or two rooms inside of it. It's got a bed, maybe a couch, some furniture, all kinds of cluttered up shit in there. They throw a smoke machine in it or black out somebody's mask, and that just sits back behind the volunteer firehouse. And whenever they want to go do training, that's what they use it for. And like you said, you don't have to have a multi-million-dollar training facility or all this elaborate equipment to get out and train on something like search or any kind of truck work, engine ops, or anything that we do. When it comes to basic firefighter level skills, it's relatively easy and cheap to find a way to get better at it.
Search training is super cheap. I would argue it's the cheapest thing to train on by far. By far, you really don't need anything other than if you make a post on Facebook asking for free shit for the fire department, you are going to have more shit than what you will ever know what to do with. I promise. We do it to every single class we go teach. We'll hit up the Goodwill. Hey, we're with the fire department. We're doing a search class. Do you all have anything that you want to go? Yes, please bring a dumpster and load all this shit down. Every single class. It never fails. But there really is no excuse not to get better. There is so many resources out there to expand just on like stuff that you need for these surge classes. There's so much knowledge out there on the Book of Faces and the YouTubes that you can pick up. Now, you really have to vet that information. But you have to vet that information from outside classes you go to regardless. So don't watch a video on Facebook and immediately take it back and try and teach it to all the homies at your fire department. Take it, implement it, and try and see if it's going to work for you and your organization. You really have to vet this information. But There is. I mean, anyone saying that, oh, well, I just don't have the opportunity to train. I just, well, you guys can go to all these classes. I don't have the opportunity to do that. That's not true at all. Yeah,
Well,
just a
how
quick,
often have you guys heard the saying, easy for you to do this, you get paid to do it?
yeah, I wish. That would be nice.
Actually, I love when people say that because I'm like, you don't know what I get paid to do because you don't work for my fire department. So let's start there, and then you say, okay, um, why does pay have to do anything? Have to do it? You either want to train or you don't want to train. It's that simple. It is. It is nothing to do with anything other than a mindset. Every fire department has those people that love to train, whether it be paid on call, a career department, volunteer, and every department has those people that don't want anything to do with it because they think going to their call is enough. So the whole like, well, you get paid to do it, that doesn't mean anything to me. I get paid to provide coverage to my city for emergencies that happen in my city 24 hours a day. That's what I get paid to do. Anything else that I get to do within my shift is a luxury. All right.
Yep.
So guess what? There's days where we have training planned as a department that we have to cancel it because either the weather sucks or we're just getting hammered with calls and we can't get through it or whatever. So that excuse of you get paid to do it, it's not valid for me. You know. Then guess what? There's a core group of people that are like, I don't care if it's 11 o'clock at night, we're getting something in today, whether it be a mask up drill or a bunk out drill or something. Maybe we might just brew a pot of coffee because we've been up all day and there's no point in going to sleep anymore. And we're just going to sit at the table and we're just going to talk about the job, right? And we're going to learn from each other, right? There's all different types of training, man. Like, it doesn't always have to be hands-on, full gear, like sweating your ass off, like on air. Like, training could be as simple as, hey, let's do a tabletop drill. Here's a picture of a fire. What would you do and why? And we go around the table and we talk about it, right? It's really not a big deal, And I would even say, like, for a very cheap price, there's plenty of places out there that do online classes from instructors all over the country that you might not be able to afford to bring to your department or go to one of their classes, but you can afford $20 for a Zoom session. Yep. Pay for it, get your whole crew together. Even at the volunteer firehouse, get everybody at the firehouse, throw it up on the TV. It's training night. Boom, done. Right?
Well, I mentioned your searchable versus survivable class up on the BCF platform. I pay $10 a month to have a membership to that, and there's a multitude of lecture classes on there that all you have to do is take an HDMI cord, hook your laptop up to the TV in the firehouse, and boom, now you're sitting in a 2-hour class and you didn't have to drive all the way to FDIC, pay thousands of dollars to listen to it.
Right.
The resources are out there, and if you honestly can tell me that you can't pay $10 a month to be better at your job, then you're probably making some really piss poor decisions in life somewhere. Because if that $10 is what's going to make or break you, if you're going to lose your home and everything you've got over $10 a month, we really need to figure some deeper shit out.
Well, I'm going to tell you this right now. It's $120 a year. I guarantee you spend more than $120 a year putting Zins in your mouth, drinking your energy drinks, smoking
hey, easy,
whatever it is. Hey, look, I'm not right here. Okay, I get it. But the point I'm trying to make is, we tend to find excuses, but on the other side of things, we're spending that same money on whatever our habits are, right? And that's not to cast judgment on anybody. That's just to say, like, hey, you don't care about the money when it's feeding your addiction, right? I need caffeine or I need nicotine or whatever this is, right? But when it comes to training, all of a sudden it's like, whoa, I can't do that, man. That's too expensive. I encourage everybody to shift that mindset. If I can afford $120 a month to spend on insert thing here, I can afford it to make sure that I'm remaining educated for my brothers and sisters in the fire service, and that I do everything in my power to save a life out there in the streets. I save my brother and sister's lives if need be, I need to be prepared because this shit matters. I could quit smoking or drinking energy drinks or dipping or whatever it is tomorrow, and my life is going to drastically get better, right? I don't put time and effort into this job, somebody's going to pay the ultimate price. And that's the problem, right? So it is a serious thing. And we need to start realizing, like, it's okay to invest in it, right? It will pay dividends, I promise you.
I think, and I'll just be honest with you all, and I'm sure you all also know this, but the people who are going to be bitching about not being able to come to trainings because it's too expensive, blah, 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 blah. Man, the vast majority of them wouldn't be coming to trainings if they were free. So
Absolutely.
that's not investing in yourself goes well beyond, like you said, $10 a month or a free post on Facebook about grabbing stuff for the local firehouse. It's not about that. It's not about that because, like Sean said, I mean, they're going to be spending the money elsewhere. Um, Now, what I do realize is I do not expect other people to have the same amount of passion as I do about this job. Like I would not expect anybody to share that. Um, but you do have to care. Like if you are going to do this job, you do have to care about it and you do have to get better. So it's just those very, very, very small investments. But the people who refuse to invest, they wouldn't come if the training was free. That's the truth of the matter.
100%. Well, guys, we just hit the 1 hour mark, so give either y'all have anything that you want to add to any certain topics or something that you want to throw out there, we can hit real quick. I don't want to, I know for myself, I'm sure a lot of other firemen out there, it's hard to keep an attention span for a really long time. So I don't want to get too far off into the weeds. And next thing we know, it's been 2 hours and we're still talking shop and nobody is listening anymore.
You're doing great, dude. I'm just chilling.
There's always time to do another episode. You know what I'm saying? So
Oh
I'm with
yeah.
you on the 1 hour thing. I would just say this. You know there's so many avenues we can talk about on these podcasts and everything else. If you are a firefighter, do yourself a favor and find something that you actually really care deeply about in this profession, and make that your whole mission to improve throughout your career. All right. If every person in our industry did that, imagine what kind of fire service we would have. Right? We're so hell bent on talking shit about one another and you know how bad our departments suck and like all this other shit. Like we focus on all these negative problems that consume so much of our time and it does nothing for us. Divert that energy into something productive, right? Something that actually is going to make a difference. Maybe it's just something in your department that you figure you can improve, or you know, within your own crew, or hell, even yourself, right? But please, just this is the greatest job there is, and we have our days where like we're like, God, man, cannot wait to retire, you know, because we're frustrated, and that's we're human, right? That's gonna happen, and I understand that you can't be like, you know, on this high all the time and this super positive person all the time, but man, just try. Find that thing, that one thing. It's just one thing. Pour some time, effort, and energy into it and give that back to people and like your situation will drastically improve.
Yeah. That that is so important. I was talking to a fireman named Brock at work about this exact thing. I told him I was like, you know, find your niche. Find what you are really, really, really good at and take off and run with it. Because there, like you said, there is no reason for all of us to be spectacular at one individual thing. Like it's a collective, right? So find your niche and get very, very, very good at that. For him, chopped it up. I think it's going to be building construction. Like the dude has so much knowledge on building construction. Two most important things in the fire service is fire behavior and building construction. So imagine how much positive change he can make just by something as simple as that, teaching guys building construction. Because at the very start of my career in the fire service, during my building construction class, back when I did not know how important it was, the instructor walked in and said, "Hey guys, I'm sorry, this is going to be a super boring class, but we're going to have to get through it. This is going to be building construction." And it's like, now that I know how important it is, it's like, you are setting me up to kill myself, dude.
100%. Well, Wheeler, you and I just talked about that. What was it, 2 sets ago? Whenever you floated out to 51, talking about how building construction, is sold as this shitty thing, and then
Yeah.
we were talking about Main Street firefighting. Chris Tobin and Lex Shady. I remember
Mm-hmm.
sitting in their lecture and looking at the conference layout up to that point. I was like, oh man, there's going to be a building construction lecture. Okay, whatever. I guess we'll just have to sit through it. By the end of that lecture, I was on the edge of my seat more than any other lecture at the conference. I
Yep.
w- I've got my notebook. I actually found the notebook from that conference today. It's what I've been taking notes on since we've been in here. And I was flipping through it before we did this podcast, and there's more notes on the building construction lecture than anything else. But same thing, it was sold as this, sorry guys, this is going to suck, and I never had a good understanding of it. I hated it. I didn't want to look into it until somebody came in and put that, going to revert back again, put that why behind it, and somebody said, "Hey, this is why this is should be important to you, and why you need to know what the hell you're talking about or what you're looking at whenever you show up to your next building on fire."
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't want to go on another tangent, but I'll just wrap it up with this. If you guys don't know Candace Ashby, she's an incredible person. All right. Um, One of my favorite people, wealth of knowledge. She puts it into perspective. She really does. She'll tell you there's 1,440 hours in a day. Break down your day. Tell me that you can't give yourself at least 1 hour to do something. You can. There's plenty of time in the day. We just don't use it properly, and then we say we don't have enough time. So think about that one.
Love that. Guys, before we wrap up, if you want to let everybody know where they can reach out if they've got any questions or want to follow along with you on social media.
Yeah, Josh, you want to go do it first?
Yeah. So I'm on Facebook as Josh Wheeler, Instagram Josh Wheeler. I run the page 870 Leatherworks. You can reach out to me on there or at 270-791-6197.
Awesome. You could reach out to me, Sean Duffy, on Facebook, Instagram, wherever. You can email me, duffy558@gmail.com. I will always throw the caveat out there that I don't always get back to my email in a timely manner, so you're going to have to bear with me. So if you send me an email, I'll give you my phone number. I don't give it out over the airwaves like this because I hate getting stupid phone calls.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah. Thanks for that. That's
yeah. Not that
I
anybody
probably should have
called
thought
me.
about that.
Yeah.
Wheeler's going to need a lot of extended car warranties.
That's what I was just
Right,
about to
right,
say. I'm going to be
exactly.
warranted out the ass, dude.
Firemen are firemen, man. They'll find ways to fuck with you all the time. So if you really need me, reach out to me either in a message or an email. I'll give you my phone number then. But other than that, you can also find me on Build Your Culture. That's what I run, and that's about it.
Awesome. Well, I want to say thank you guys for coming on today, talking some shop. Good conversation. Like I told y'all, whenever the idea of doing something on search popped in my head with a multiple guest podcast, you were two of the first guys that came to mind. So I definitely appreciate Sean, you coming back and doing another one with me, and Wheeler, you being able to hop on today, and y'all bearing with me since we've been trying to do this for like 2 months now. So y'all heard them, everybody. Follow them on social media. Tag along with it. Got any questions, reach out to them. I know these guys will be more than happy to talk you through any questions or anything that you've got going on. If you want to get better at the job or just something that you want to talk shop about yourself.
Awesome. Thanks for having us, brother.
Thank you for having us, dude.